You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
Welcome. Good evening, representatives, ex officio members, and those in attendance here and at home. The December 13th, 2023 meeting of the Branford RTM is called to order at 8:03. Our first order would be to stand and for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Turning to the agenda, we will turn to the town clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Representative Adams.
Present.
Absent?
Present. Here.
Present? Okay, thank you. Representative Edelman. Absent? Representative Alphone.
Here.
Representative Amore.
Here.
Representative Anderson.
Here.
Representative Black.
Here.
Representative Bonenberger.
Here.
Representative Brooks.
Sir, yes, sir.
Representative Dayhill.
Here.
Representative Everson.
Here.
Representative Greenberg. Absent. Representative Hartwell.
Here.
Representative Henschel.
Here.
Representative Hines.
Here.
Representative Ingraham.
Here.
Representative Keefe.
Here.
Representative Leitch.
Present.
Representative Larson.
Here.
Representative Lafredo.
Here.
Representative Maresca.
Here.
Representative McCall.
Here.
Representative McCormick.
Here.
Representative Newpayne.
Here.
Representative Papaluzio. Absent. Representative Sharkey.
Here.
Representative Sumro.
Absent.
Absent. Representative Toohill. Present. Representative Verderame.
Here.
And Representative Waterman.
Here.
We have a
Quorum.
quorum.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Toohill. Okay. Item 2 rather, we calls for an approval of the minutes of October 11th and November 1st meetings. I call for those people who were seated at that time to comment on the minutes. Any changes or suggestions for edits to either of those minutes?
So moved to accept.
Okay.
Second.
Second? Okay. All in favor of accepting the minutes?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Clerk, Mr. Toohill, have we received any communications or reports of committees or anything like that in advance of moving the agenda?
The only report I received was from Representative Henschel concerning last night's Ways and Means Committee meeting.
Okay,
Besides that, that's all I got, Madam Moderator.
excellent, thank you very much.
Well-
Okay, there's been a request.
A correction, rules and ordinances met last night.
Oh, sorry.
not Ways and Means.
That's correct. Thank you, Representative Everson.
There's been a request, since we have many guests here, to speak on item 12, which are the ARPA Fund awards, to move item 12 to the next point on the agenda. Is there a motion to accept this request?
So moved.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Okay, so we will turn to item 12 on the agenda. And bear with me, it's a long list. So this is now item 4. Okay. To consider and, if appropriate, approve the following list of Branford Community Foundation's ARPA recommendations and resolution approved by the Board of Finance on November 27th, 2023. I'm going to go down the list. To BH Care, $10,000. To the Branford Historical Society, $8,000. To the Branford Land Trust, $14,000. To the Branford Micro Fund, $20,000. To the Carrie P. Chandler Housing Development Corporation, $20,000. To the Child Development Center, $10,000. To the Community Dining Room, $20,000. To Fairhaven Community Health Care, $20,000. To Friends of the James Blackstone Library, $8,800. To the Legacy Theater, $35,000. Move to Heal, Connecticut, $20,000. To the Orchard House Medical Adult Daycare, $13,000. To Read to Grow, Inc., $15,000. To the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Heritage Foundation, $21,200. To the Shoreline Arts Alliance, $7,000. To the Shoreline Elder Care Alliance, $2,000. To the Shoreline Village, Connecticut, $10,000. To the Soundview Family YWCA, care of the Central Connecticut Coast YMCA, $15,000. To the Special Olympics, Connecticut, $20,000. To the Stony Creek Museum, $5,000. To the Branford Corral, $6,000. To the Branford Electric Railway Association, $15,000. To the Connecticut Hospice, $50,000. To the Cove Center for Grieving Children, $5,000. And for the Women and Family Life Center, $25,000, totaling $395,000. This item was heard by the Administrative Services. Oh, sorry, missed part of the item. So therefore, be it resolved that the RTM, pursuant to the efforts of the Branford Community Foundation, approves ARPA allotments out of the previous ARPA allocation of $395,000. This item was heard by both Ways and Means and the Administrative Services Committee. So I would call on Mr. Hartwell to give the first committee report.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. This proposal was brought to Ways and Means Committee. It was presented by Jim Finch, the Finance Director, and also by Liza Petra, the Director of the Branford Community Foundation. It was discussed in detail, and it was approved 4-1 by the committee.
Thank you. And Administrative Services, the chair, standing in for the chair is Ms. McCormick.
Thank you. Yes, the Administrative Services Committee did hear this, and a motion to approve was made by Representative Verderame, seconded by Representative McCall. The motion carried with Representative Edelman abstaining. I move that in the form of the motion.
Okay. Any discussion on the floor? Representative, Mr. Black.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'll give a minority report for
Okay.
Ways and Means. I was the one that voted against it. The issue is that these organizations aren't necessarily fine organizations, but I'll just go over the three that I have problematic. Fairhaven Community Health did not serve Branford residents during COVID. In fact, it refused vaccinations for Branford residents during COVID. The Cove Center for Grieving Children is based in Cheshire and served less than 10 children, I think, out of a total of 91. And the last one is Branford-based, but it's moved to Heal. It would have had no decrease in contributions because it didn't set up until halfway or toward the tail end of COVID in May 2021. It's not that it's not a good organization, but we have Branford-based organizations here that had large shortfalls of funding, including Legacy Theater, for instance. Their shortfall, they're saying, was $210,000, and the Shoreline Chamber was $103 for its Branford component. And anyway, that was the reason that I voted against this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion from the RTM?
Madam Moderator?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So there was a total of $425,000 reserved by the Board of Finance to assist nonprofit organizations. And we have tonight, the list in front of us is to make the donations for $395,000. So the difference, I just wanted to point this out so people, understand, $30,000 of that, the difference between $425,000 and $395,000, $30,000 was the fee that was paid to the foundation. Just FYI. Thank you.
Madam Moderator?
Yes. Ms. Everson?
Thank you. I think it's important to take note of how we come to take this vote on a portion of Branford's $8 million American Rescue Plan funding. In March of 2022, we received the first memo from the administration on ARPA funding recommendations, and the RTM voted on those items that related to a shifting of mostly capital budgetary items. After that meeting, some of us Democrats asked for a more inclusive public input process into how this once-in-a-lifetime federal funding opportunity might be utilized to benefit the people impacted by the COVID-19 epidemic. Not just the people, but also charitable organizations in the community. Finally, the focus was turned to the people in these organizations and a process put in place with the Branford Community Foundation in charge of vetting applicants and recommending funding allocations. It's important to point out that during the discussions before the committees, the Branford Community Foundation told us that the requests totaled twice as much as what was allocated by the town for this purpose. The Branford Community Foundation and its members deserve our thanks. Yes, they were paid for their services, and rightly so, given the time and effort that was put into making important decisions. What we've learned is that the need is much greater than what was originally allocated, so I would urge the Cosgrove administration to consider allocating additional ARPA funds that are still available. I can only imagine how this grant money might have helped these groups and people much sooner, perhaps a year ago, had the process been acted upon. I will be voting in favor tonight. Thank you.
Other comments or questions from Mr. Brooks?
Representative Brooks, 2nd District. I think this is a great first. I think this is a great first step, and I say first step because I do think we need to do more. We have an opportunity to give money that's not taxpayer money towards organizations that help those that need our help the most. It's no secret in the world that we are in an opioid crisis, for example. Let's get more money into the hands of people that help with the opioid crisis, which a lot of that stems from the uptick in the addiction that happened during COVID. So why not get more money into those people? How about we get more money to people that had no money during COVID? The single moms that lost their jobs because they were waitresses. Nobody gave them money. They didn't get money. And they barely survived. They got through. There are organizations here that help everyday people like that more than and can help them more if we give them more money. We have to do more. We need to do more. We're going to give money later on in this agenda towards an organization that helps businesses. Well, what about the people that worked in those businesses? We have to help those people. We have an opportunity. We have more than $1 million. Let's give more money to these organizations. Let's try to make a little bit of a difference. This year alone, I know 5 Branford people under the age of 35 that have lost their lives because of the opioid, I can't say that word. The opioid crisis. We have an opportunity, if even a little bit helps a little bit, it's better than not. And I think we need to do more.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Brooks. Other comments? Mr. Henschel?
Madam Moderator, through you to the First Selectman, could you tell us how much is left in our unallocated ARPA funding and whether that amount has been targeted already?
The exact dollar amount after this appropriation, I know that came up in, I think it was, it's under 2 million. I want to say 1.8, 1.6 million.
Okay.
It was discussed that way.
Has that been targeted yet? Thank you.
I'll get you the exact.
Other questions or comments on this item from the RTM? Hearing none, I'll open it up to comments from those in attendance. First Selectman Cosgrove.
Thank you. You know, this is a great opportunity. When the federal government allocated significant dollars and distributed to states and ultimately to municipalities with, in response to the COVID, as I said, the dollars were significant. And we have a great opportunity, and I think the town has exercised taking advantage of that great opportunity. I really have to say I'm disappointed that it quickly turned political. This isn't directed towards Representative Brooks' remarks. Those are fair remarks as a community, advocating for people in need. But to all of a sudden, at the beginning of this meeting, to turn it into political, we're going to have to go back a little bit. When the town of Branford first received their allocation, before we received it, when we got notice of our allocation, we had a town hall event. I believe the chamber may have hosted it, but there was a town hall event. And even early on, before the final guidance was still months down the road, we said, as a town, that we would have a portion of these funds would go to the social services here in Branford. We made that statement, the Cosgrove administration. But I'm not taking credit. It was the administration. We all discussed this, both sides of the aisle as it went through. It wasn't meant to be a political act. This was something that I think is part of what Branford does on a year in and year out basis through our budget process. We talk about helping people in this community. I think Branford, certainly we know we're a very giving community, a supportive community, but also our municipality, in our budget, we are a very caring community that we have demonstrated that. When you look at the work that our counseling center does, that is overwhelmingly taxpayer funded, the work that they do in the community is significant, helping those who are in need, those who are going through troubled times. We talk about being able to do more. Well, very early on, in the very first allocation of the budget dollars, in that first year budget, what did we do for our counseling center? For those members right here that are criticizing, do you recall that we did? Okay, our basic needs account. The town of Branford was historically funding about $58,000 in the basic needs account. We said this is an opportunity for us to create a glide path to do more in the future. You don't recall this because we voted on it. We ended up putting an additional $50,000 in the basic needs account, and we're setting it up on a glide path to soften the impact on the taxpayer dollars, but to establish a base of about $150,000. So when the COVID money goes away, and you can no longer use these ARPA dollars, the town of Branford, through our budget, will be funding basic needs at an amount of $150,000. That's on top of what the counseling centers. That's going directly to meet the needs of the people who are most vulnerable in our community. okay? So I think you have to look at, in total, what the town does for our community. It's not just this $395,000. And I thank the Brantford Community Foundation. We had discussions very early on with them about, how can we look for a trusted source. We knew right away internally, this wasn't a reaction to some call on a floor, a demand by one political party. No, we knew, as I said, on the record, very early on, we were going to have a portion of these dollars go to our social services. We needed to develop a mechanism to deploy those dollars. And thankfully, we had a group here in town who's very in touch, who has is a trusted source, has the capacity, or actually had to bring on. So we're one of 2 communities that have set up this type of fund, this type of distribution in the state of Connecticut. Millions of dollars, towns that got significant more dollars than us. But to have a grant application process that opened up to the charitable 501c3s, I believe, from what I hear from the consultants who work in this field, we're one of 2 communities. So I'm proud of how we deployed our dollars and how we spend our dollars, and I'm proud of how this community, not only through this window of time, but how we've set ourselves up to continue to take care of our most vulnerable population. Thank you.
Yes. Come and take the mic and introduce yourself and where you live.
Hello, I am Josh Marshall from 186 Damascus Road. Jamie, I have a tenant who I have subsidized to be a quarter of the average rent and who daily almost gets run over because of lack of sidewalks. I am personally subsidizing your failures. I don't care what else you say. I don't care what else is going on with what you say is happening with funding. I have a guy who is in desperate need that you've not reached.
Are there any other questions or comments from the public? Hearing none? Yes. Ms. McCormick.
Thank you. Representative McCormick. I just wanted to address what Representative Black had mentioned about some of his comments about the item that we discussed. And in committee, in the Administrative Services Committee, those concerns were addressed by some people that were there. I believe D. Jacob was there from Shoreline Chamber, and we did discuss the fact that a couple of the recipients who were not, like the Cheshire person organization, for example, they did help Branford people. So, and the other comment, I believe, was that the money wasn't requested until 2021, but that was a direct result of COVID. So it was COVID related, and they were to specifically help people.
Thank you, Representative McCormick. Are there any other organizations on the list that would like to speak or feel the need to? Oh, okay. Hearing none, we will put this item to a vote. It will be a voice vote. So item 12, the vote yes is to accept this resolution, and I'll read that again, that the RTM, pursuant to the efforts of the Branford Community Foundation, approves ARPA allotments out of previous ARPA allocation of $395,000. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Any abstentions? The ayes have it. The motion, the amendment, the Item carries. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item 5.
Yes.
Certainly, I didn't get the request, but we
I make a
can.
motion that we move item 13 up as well.
To item 5, second, Representative Ingraham. Okay. All in favor of moving item 13 to the new number 5?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right. The item carries. And I will read the item. Hold on. Got to find it. Item 13 is new item 5, to consider and if appropriate, approve the reallocation of $25,000 in ARPA funds previously returned to the town to the Shoreline Chamber of Commerce to offset losses and to approve the following resolution. Resolved, that the RTM approves a grant to the Shoreline Chamber of $25,000. This grant will be funded through ARPA dollars previously returned to the town and will be repurposed to offset the Chamber's revenue losses during the pandemic. Okay, this was heard once again by Ways and Means and Admin Services. Mr. Hartwell, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Moderator. So this proposal was brought again to Ways and Means. It was considered outside of the money that went through the Branford Community Foundation because BCF determined that the recipient was in fact not a charitable organization, even though it is a 501 nonprofit. So that's why it's being handled here separately tonight and why it was handled separately in the committees. The money, as stated, came originally from the town, went back to the town, and now the idea is to bring it back to the organization. In this particular case, it was the original grant from the town was to support a particular program, which in fact has not been done, which is why the money was given back to the town. And if this is approved tonight, the $25,000 will not go to that specific program. That program is no longer in the queue, but it will go into the reserves of the organization. We were given presentations by Mr. Finch, the finance director, and also in this case by the executive director of the Shoreline Chamber. There was extensive discussion around that particular issue as to whether money going back into the reserves of the organization was an appropriate place to be. And at the end, the Ways and Means Committee voted 4-1 in favor, so there was one person who was opposed.
Thank you very much. Ms. McCormick, would you give the Admin Services report?
Yes, thank you. The Administrative Services did hear this, and the motion to approve was made by Representative Toohill, seconded by Representative Alphone, and the motion carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. Okay, are there any questions or comments from members of the RTM? Representative Waterman.
Yes, so, Madam Moderator, would it be possible to get clarity on what, the ARPA funds then will be used for initially, as was said that it was supposed to be for a mentoring program for small businesses in town, and there was not a clear use of what these funds would be for.
Thank you. Is there someone who would like to speak to that? Come on up, please, and introduce yourself.
Good evening. I'm Dee Jacob, President of the Shoreline Chamber. We applied under the Branford Community Fund application process. At the time, they were accepting applications, including ours from a 501c6. We had two choices. One was for revenue loss, which we had an approximate allocated loss out of Branford of about $103,000. We requested $35,000 under the revenue loss provision. We didn't have a specific project in mind. The vast majority of projects programs that were requesting funding under the ARPA grants were for revenue loss. And so when you get funds for revenue loss, it doesn't sit necessarily for any project. It sits, first of all, into reserves, and then you, once you don't spend your money until you have it and figure out what programs it was. The program that we originally requested for, we started discussing in the town of Branford in early 2022. And that program had a lead time in order to ramp up, but we didn't receive funding to the end of '22. As we looked at, we were doing a comparable program in another town and realized that there were some elements we needed to change in order to hit some of our targets. And my board executive team with myself looked and said, could we get from point A to point B, which is December 31st of 2024, and do the program that we planned with the impact that we intended with the time we had remaining. So that's why we didn't have that program. But this is no different than anybody else who asked for revenue reserves, revenue losses to be covered.
Okay, thank you. Other follow-up questions for Ms. Jacobs? Any other comments? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from those in attendance tonight? Hearing none, we'll put this to a vote. I will read the resolution. Resolve, the RTM approves a grant to the Shoreline Chamber of $25,000. This grant will be funded through the ARPA dollars previously returned to the town and will be repurposed to offset the Chamber's revenue losses due to the pandemic. This will be a voice vote. A vote of yes is in support of this resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Oh, one opposition?
Who abstained, or?
No abstained, one no
There
vote.
was one opposed? Thank
One
you.
opposed, yes. Okay, the motion the item carries. Okay, let's return to the first page. Okay, so item 4, the new item 6, sorry. To consider and, if appropriate, approve a tentative agreement by and between the Town of Branford and the United Public Services Employees Union, abbreviated to UPSEU, Local 010, Parks and Recreation Custodians through June 30th, 2026. That was heard by Ways and Means. Mr. Hartwell, will you give the report?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. We were given a presentation by, again, by Jim Finch, and then also by the HR Director of the town. One of the questions raised was why it took so long to get this done. It's a year and a half in advance. There are steps each year for the contract, and so we approved this contract unanimously.
Okay, are there questions or comments from the members of the RTM on this item? Comments? Representative Tupel.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I did some research on the proposed contract and also the contract that expired last year. And so the contract that expired starting July 1st, 2021, the employee's health care cost share went to 13% from 12%. And then under the current contract, it stays at 13% for 4 years, from July 1st, 2021 to July 1st, 2025. That's when it goes to 14%. So I just wanted to point that out, that, I mean, I believe this is unprecedented. We've always gone up a little bit at least every single year. It's either 0.25%, 0.5%, a full percent. But under this contract, it stays frozen for 4 years at 13%. And the other thing I saw was that there is one employee under the proposed contract that gets almost a $12,000 raise, and it goes from like $22 an hour to $28 an hour. and I couldn't find any additional hours, any additional duties, any additional responsibilities for this employee. Now, they all do a great job, that's for sure. I mean, we probably have the best rec director in the state, Alex Paluzzi. And he's got a great crew, you know, and he has had a great crew there for many years. And so they're great, but I just don't think that raising one that much is fair to everybody else. Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Toohill. Is there anybody who would like to respond or comment? Representative Brooks.
I don't want to get political. And this isn't political, I promise. I just think we as a community, I've been saying this since the first day I got here, and I'll say it till I'm not here again. I don't think we pay our people enough, and I think we need to pay them more. And you're right, it's not fair that somebody got more money than everybody else, so let's give everybody else more money. That's that's where I'm coming from. We need to pay our people more. And I know I'm not whatever, but we got to pay them more.
Any other questions or comments from the RTM, members of the RTM? Yes, Ms. Lake.
Thank you, Madam.
Please rise.
I just want to speak to what Representative Toohill raised. I noticed the exact same thing, and I wondered, could someone answer, like, what the job, like, if the job responsibilities? Thank you.
I'm not. The position that received, this is for the Parks and Rec,
Yes.
program coordinator position. It was during negotiations, it was brought into the table that the job responsibilities of that position very closely aligned to a very similar position within the department. So it was really to close that discrepancy. Now those two positions are at equal pay. The position that was under market, or the lower paid position, was a position that was created a couple budgets, a couple years ago. And I think it was something that during that process, it's looking to get a new position, and they were transitioning a part-time position to a full-time position, and they set a salary. But when it comes to the table and they're negotiating, and that's one of the things that was brought forward, is to make that on par with a position that's, like I said, very closely aligned in terms of responsibility. So it was to balance it. So I just think the other thing that it's important to recognize that these are negotiations. They're not contests, and so the bargaining unit agrees to this change as well, and they ratify.
Thank you, Mr. Cosgrove. Any other questions or comments from members of the RTM? From the public, questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, we will vote on item 6, on the tentative agreement between the town and the United Public Services Employee Union. This will be a voice vote. A vote yes is to accept this agreement. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Okay, thank you very much. We will move on to item 7, the new item 7. To consider and if appropriate pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes, Chapter 166, Section 10153DB, approve an agreement between the Branford Board of Education and the Branford Education Association from July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2027. This was heard by the Education Committee. Mr. Keefe, will you give the report?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. It's my pleasure to give a report that we held a hearing week ago Monday. It was a robust presentation by the BOE President Peter Bergun, as well as Superintendent Christopher Tranberg. The presentation was very thoughtful and explained the reasoning for the contract. The contract includes a raise for all steps. Perhaps most importantly, it addresses a gap in the raises over the last couple of years in terms of where there had been freezes in the contract steps, and so the flattening of that bubble then to address that issue with people in the top tier. In addition, the new contract includes 2 incentives for new hires that will help the school district, and it also includes a raise to coaches and advisors that support the clubs and activities. It's my pleasure to note that the contract was unanimously voted on by the Board of Education as well as the Teachers Union, and it reported favorably out of our committee of 5-0 unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keefe. Okay, questions or comments from members of the RTM?
I don't even mind. Same thing. We have to pay our teachers more. I saw the statistics. I know we're high up there, but I know a teacher who's been here far longer than a decade. They're on step 9, and their weekly paycheck from last year to this year is $5 a week less. I'm not making that up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brooks. Other comments or questions from the RTM? Okay, hearing none, I'll open up to comments or presentations from members of the audience tonight. Okay, please step forward and identify yourself. We don't know who you are.
Mr. Man.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. It's nice to see you in that chair tonight.
Thank you.
My name is Chris Sullivan, 18 Pine Hollow Road, and I'm here to speak in favor of the contract that's before you tonight. I could focus on supporting teachers and giving them more money, but that's already been talked about. I could also focus on supporting unions, as I think that's important. But I wanted to focus on a positive change to policies in the district that is part of this contract. In the past, if staff at the schools wanted to start a new club or a sport, they were not given any stipends for that new sport for the first 2 years of the program. This contract offers percentages of stipends for new coaches, for clubs and sports at the schools, which will encourage more opportunities for the kids in our school system. These coaches put time into these sports, and people's time has a value, and it's good to see that this contract will compensate their time. So why am I really focusing on this item? There's a group of folks that are trying to get soccer programs at the middle school. And there were some coaches interested last year, but without getting the stipends, they couldn't commit their time. Now that there are stipends going to be available through this contract, I already know that there's at least 4 and maybe 5 people that are interested in actually coaching teams at Walsh. So hopefully there can be programs for boys and girls playing soccer at Walsh. So I would urge the members of this illustrious body to support the contract that's in front of you tonight. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sullivan. Other members of the audience?
Good evening. Greg Jerolman, Pheasant Lane here in Branford. I'd like to speak against. Reason being, and I'm sorry for the repetition for those that attended the RTM Education Subcommittee. You know, first of all, Mr. Keefe, Dr. Tranberg, thank you very much for the numbers that were requested, and you can see that. You okay? Great, thank you.
Mr. Jerolman, please direct your comments to the moderator.
I'm sorry, I was hearing some
Doesn't matter.
some chitter-chatter,
Direct them here, please.
of course. So, what it shows is the teachers are well compensated, and for those in the audience that want teachers well compensated, it looks like we're doing the right thing there. The problem and the issue there is that, this is the largest budget. This is the largest part of the Board of Ed budget. The Board of Ed budget is the largest part of the town budget. We've gone through something where, over the last 2 years, the cumulative favorable climate study is 19%. We have had decline in every key performance indicator that is positive, and increase in every key performance indicator that is negative. And the problem is that, we have a very robust union that we're paying. This is the largest body within the district. This is the largest union. You have a climate study of 15% favorability rating for district leadership, previous district leadership, to be clear. Then 23%. Where was this union in terms of coming to the table and saying, okay, hey, folks, we have a problem? We're paying them for that. I mean, it just seems dysfunctional at a certain level that we're paying for this representation. There's obvious problems, and people that are affected by it and have ample protection and ample visibility and boots on the ground, they didn't do anything. Now, I understand. One can say, all right, well, Board of Ed, this entity, that entity, they were similarly at fault, and there's probably plenty of truth to that. But what we have here in front of us is the contract for a teacher's contract that's represented by a robust union that we're paying and giving all sorts of benefits to, and at a time when they could have delivered the most value years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, a year ago, to say, hey, we have a problem. They did nothing, okay? And that needs to be taken into consideration. And lastly, with regard to folks getting paid correctly, and Mr. Brooks, I certainly advocate that, and I would say that no greater need from a Board of Ed and district perspective exists in terms of adequate pay and living wages than our paraprofessionals. So you look at where the teachers are in the whole landscape, especially, you look at where they are in the DERGs. If you had to look at the same thing from the paraprofessionals, you would not see that. I don't know what the exact numbers are. You would not see that. The exact numbers don't even solve a problem that we have in terms of being able to adequately hire people at a competitive wage relative to those geographic competitors and DERG competitors. We're in, at best, the middle. So by going ahead with this, it's another slap in the face for the paraprofessionals, number one. And number two, it's allocating monies that I think also need to be allocated towards the paraprofessionals. So yeah, I'm an advocate of people getting paid, and if it means getting paid more so we're in a competitive situation advantageously, that's great. But again, the paraprofessionals, that's key. And by approving this, we're taking money away from them and further compensating an already, arguably overcompensated segment. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Trollman.
Thank you.
Other members of the audience tonight care to comment or ask questions on the provisions of this contract before we vote? Okay.
Madam Moderator, if I could just make a clarification, this body does not vote on the paraprofessionals contract. It is up to the Board of Education to do so. We simply vote on the teacher's contract, just for clarification for the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eversley. Okay, we are going to then hold a vote. This will be a voice vote.
Excuse me, Madam
I'm
Moderator.
sorry.
I think it's a contract, you need to do a roll call.
Okay, we didn't do the last one, the last contract.
Oh, no.
It's a, I checked, it's a provision, not a rule.
All right, very good.
If somebody wants a voice, a roll call vote, we can certainly hold one. Is anybody calling for a roll call vote?
I think Frank just
You
did.
calling?
No. No.
Okay.
Subtracted it.
All right. Okay, we're going back to a voice vote, all right. So, let me see. I lost it. Item 7, to consider and if appropriate pursuant to CGS Chapter 166, to approve the agreement between the Branford Board of Education and the Branford Education Association for July 24 to June 27. A yes vote is to vote in favor of accepting this contract. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The item carries. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to new item 8. To consider and if appropriate approve the following transfer request and resolution from the Director of Human Resources for fiscal 2024 pursuant to the RTM approved collective bargaining agreement for the Public Works Union contract as follows. A general fund transfer from contingency, $35,145 to regular wages and salaries, to GGB, General Government Buildings, $3,246. Overtime, GGB, $976. Regular wages and salaries, Public Works, $22,904. Overtime, Public Works, $2,409. Regular wages and salaries, Solid Waste and Recycling, $4,598. Overtime, Solid Waste and Recycling, $1,102, for a total of $35,145. Resolved that the RTM approves a transfer from contingency for $35,145 to the noted accounts to fund compensation changes pursuant to the recently approved Public Works Collective Bargaining Agreement for the period of July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. Okay, this $35,000 transfer was heard by not one, not two, but 3 committees. So we will start with Admin Services. Ms. McCormick, will you give the opening report?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. This funding was already approved in the Board of Finance. It went through unanimously, so this is basically a formality. The motion to approve was made by Representative Toohill and seconded by Representative Larson. The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. McCormick. Mr. Hartwell. Oh, no, Mr. Bonenberger, will you give the Public Works report? Please stand.
Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Okay.
Public Works, Public Services met on December 7th. We discussed this. It seems reasonable. We voted unanimously to approve it, and I recommend that this RTM do so as well. Thank you.
And Mr. Hartwell, Ways and Means, would you give your report, please?
Thank you. This came to our committee, I think, because of the money coming out of contingency, but we actually weren't sure it actually belonged to us. We did approve it unanimously.
Thank you. So, any comments or questions from members of the RTM? Okay, hearing none, we'll open it up to members of the audience. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, we open to a voice vote. Resolved that the RTM approves a transfer from contingency for $35,145 to the noted accounts. A vote yes is to vote in favor of this transfer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the item carries.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 9, to consider and if appropriate, approve the reappointments of James B. Cosgrove and Dagmar Ridgway to the Greater New Haven Transit District terms to expire December 31st, 2025 and December 31st, 2027 respectively. And this was added to Admin Services agenda?
Yes, thank
Ms.
you,
McCormick.
Madam Moderator. This item was, a motion was made to add this item to our agenda. That was made by Representative Toohill and seconded by Representative Verderame. The motion did pass with appointing Selectman Cosgrove and Mr. Ridgway to the transit districts.
Ms. Ridgway.
Ms. Ridgway, pardon me. I'm looking for my my little gyp sheet here. I believe the terms were to expire December 31st, 2025 and December 31st, 2027, respectively. The motion passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions on this appointment to the Greater New Haven Transit District for Mr. Cosgrove and Ms. Ridgway? No? None? Okay. None from the RTM? Any from the audience? No? Okay, we shall then vote. A vote in favor appoints Mr. Cosgrove and Ms. Ridgway to the Greater New Haven Transit District for the respective terms. All in favor, this will be a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The item carries.
Thank you.
Renamed item 10 on the agenda to consider and if appropriate approve the following transfer for planning and zoning for fiscal 23 from overtime $1,275 to advertising, printing, and binding for $1,275. This was heard by Rules and Ordinances. Mr. Henschel, will you give the report?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Rules and Ordinances met virtually last night. Present were Representatives Henschel, Dayhill, Berger, Ingraham, Black, and Anderson. In an email to the committee forwarded by Town Planner Harry Smith, he explained that the transfer is to cover a shortfall in the line item the department uses for legal advertisements in newspapers. This is required by state statute for public hearings associated with development applications. The shortfall was due to the number of applications received in the last fiscal year, higher advertising costs, and the need to occasionally advertise in the New Haven Register, which is at a much higher cost, instead of the weekly Sound due to timing issues. The committee voted unanimously to approve the transfer, and I put this in the form of a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Henschel. Any comments or questions from members of the RTM? Hearing none. From the audience? None. So we will put this to a vote. It will be a voice vote. A vote of yes is to approve this transfer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? No. Hearing none. The item carries. New item 11, to consider if appropriate, approve the following transfer request from the tax collector for fiscal 2023 as follows. Regular wages and salaries, $439. Purchase services, R&M, not sure what that means, but I'm sure our tax collector will tell us, $300. Online services, $780. Advertising, printing, and binding, $2,513. State fees and testing, $350. Memberships, conferences, and meetings, $279. And contingency, $962, for a total of $5,623. 2, tax bill processing for $4,142. Postage, $1,068. And office supplies, $413, for a total of $5,623. Okay, any questions or comments from members of the RTM?
Get the committee
The report.
Oh, I'm sorry. This was heard by Admin Services once again. Ms. McCormick, you're on your feet.
Thank you.
Okay.
Former Treasurer Imperato was not present at the meeting, so it was explained that this was it was explained by Jim Finch, this was basically a cleanup of the 2022 calendar. The motion to approve was made by Representative Verderame and seconded by Representative Alphone. The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. Now, any questions or comments from the RTM? Hearing none. Any comments from the audience? Thank you very much. Very good. Okay, any other comments? Hearing none, this will be a voice vote. A vote in favor is to vote for approve this transfer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, the item carries. Okay. Item 12, to consider and if appropriate approve the following transfer and resolution from the Director of Information Technology for fiscal *24. From the ARPA fund, an increase of the fund balance transfer, $30,000, and an increase into the technology acquisitions phone system of $30,000. Resolved that the RTM approves an increase in the cumulative ARPA fund appropriations from $6,572,000 to $6,602. This appropriation will be used to fund the purchase and installation of a new phone system for the police department. Okay, that was heard again by Admin Services. Ms. McCormick, will you give the committee report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator. Deb Murdo was available to explain the need for the upgraded phone system at the Branford Police Services, which was already approved by the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance. The motion to approve was made by Representative Alphone, seconded by Representative Verderame, and the motion carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. Okay, open to questions or comments from members of the RTM. Mr. Hartwell?
So this also came to Ways and Means?
Oh, it did?
Yes, it did.
Sorry.
I think because of the ARPA fund
Okay.
part of this. We were made to understand that this is in fact a timing thing because essentially all of the town departments will move to this type of telephone service, but there is a timing issue involved here with potential having to do with projects that have not yet been approved. So we approved this unanimously.
Thank you very much. Okay. Now, any comments or questions from members of the RTM? Okay. How about from the members of the audience? Any comments or questions? Mr. Cosgrove?
It really is an answer to Representative Henschel's question earlier, but it is relevant to this. After tonight's appropriations out of the ARPA fund, the balance will be $1,655,029.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Verderame.
Madam Moderator, I just want to note that, because I know it doesn't say it on the item, that this is for the purpose of the police department. Actually, well, we didn't mention it, but I just want to make sure. It is for the police department, so everyone knows.
Thank you, noted. Mr. Clerk, got it?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay. Hearing no more questions or comments, this will be a voice vote. A vote in favor is to approve this transfer from the ARPA fund to the technology acquisitions for a phone system for the police department. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The item carries. Okay. All right. New item 13, to consider and if appropriate approve the following transfer and resolution from the Finance Director for fiscal *24. General Fund appropriation increase fund balance appropriation $285,000 to the police pension contribution of $285,000. that the RTM approves an appropriation from undesignated fund balance in the amount of $285,000. This transfer will increase the fiscal year 2024 general fund budget from $130,315,768 to $130,600,768, and will be used to fund police pension requirements. Okay, so that was heard by both Public Services and Ways and Means. Mr. Bonenberger, will you start?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Public Services met on December 7th, talked about this as well. As we understood it from a presentation, as I understood it from a presentation from Mr. Finch in the Ways and Means committee meeting, this funding the police pension fund with $287,000 is something that helps our bond rating. It is also useful in the sense that we want a well-funded police pension fund. In fact, the only conversation around this was a bipartisan questions about why it's not fully funded. Mr. Finch isn't here. I assume he has a good reason for that. It's probably that I know we're very well funded in relative to other police departments in the state and relative to the state. This will bring us, I think, from 71, 72% up to around 74%, which is extremely healthy. But none of us really knew the answer to why we weren't fully funded. And again, he probably knows why that is. So we unanimously voted to fund it to fund it $285,000. And there's an open question as to why it isn't fully funded, although it is, again, very well funded.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hartwell.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Yes, this also came to Ways and Means, and we approved it unanimously.
Thank you very much. I will take questions or comments from members of the RTM. None. Okay. How about members of the audience? Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we move to vote on the resolution that the RTM approves an appropriation of $285,000 to the general fund, increase the fiscal year 24 general fund budget, and this money would be used to fund the police pension requirements. This will be a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The item carries.
Thank you.
Okay, old item 14. Pursuant to Chapter 47(4) of Branford Town Code, consider and if appropriate, approve the capital projects transfer request from the Finance Director as per the attached detailed list with totals summarized by RTM Committee. Public Services, $28,092. Rules and Ordinances, $3,463. Ways and Means, $3,500. And Education, $16,922. This was heard in Ways and Means. Mr. Hartwell can give an overall report, and if the chairs of those committees would like to speak to those transfers, they may do so.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. This was taken up at the end of the evening, and it was approved unanimously.
Thank you very much. Would anybody, any of the other chairs, like to speak to their transfers? Mr. Henschel.
Yes, Madam Moderator. Again, Rules and Ordinances Committee met last night virtually, and we discussed this item in a clarification email from Jim Finch, the Finance Director. He explained that the WPCA includes among their annual capital requests $25,000 to $50,000 per year as part of a generator and transfer switch replacement program. This transfer was simply taking the balance of fiscal year 21 project and combining it with fiscal year 24 project so as to avoid the funds lapsing pursuant to the capital projects ordinance adopted by the RTM. The committee voted unanimously to approve this transfer, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Thank you very much. Any other of the chairs? Any questions or comments from members of the RTM? Members of the public? Okay. Hearing none, we will vote on this item. And I'm not going to read all the transfers again, but this will be a voice vote. A vote yes is to approve these transfers. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The items carry. Thank you. Number 15, to establish a 2024 meeting schedule. It is posted on the town website. There are paper copies up at the front for anybody who didn't print it off, but the schedule remains the second Wednesday of each month, except for May 7th, which is a Tuesday, which is the budget vote. I can read the dates into the record. December 13th is tonight, January 10th, February 14th, April 10th, May 7th, 2023, which is a Tuesday budget night, June 12th, 2024, and there are no meetings on this schedule for July or August. If needed, they may be called. September 11th, October 9th, 2024, November 13th, 2024, December 11th, 2024, and January 8th, 2025. Really? Yes.
I'm sorry.
What? Mr. Brooks.
Through you, Miss Moderator, Madam Moderator, why would we not have on the schedule? I know we don't meet in July and August usually. We did meet this past July, I might add,
yes.
much to my chagrin.
Special meeting.
I just think having a regularly scheduled meeting that you could cancel is better than having a special, because I love the audience. They're my favorite people, and it kind of handcuffs them, because at a special, if there's something they want to bring to the table that may be pressing for them, that would be their only opportunity. And if it's a special, they don't have that opportunity, because the specials don't really have new business under them. That's just an observation on my part. Do what you must.
Would you be proposing the addition of a July 10th meeting and an August 14th meeting to the schedule?
Madam Moderator, yes.
I'll second that.
We have a second. Thank you. Any comments?
So I'm still canceling my February 14th one?
Yes, you still are.
That's my anniversary.
Okay. So we have a motion to add July 10th and August 14th to our annual calendar. And we have a second.
Who's second?
Mr. Henschel. Peter
Okay,
Henschel.
thank you.
Okay. All right. Mr. Brooks's provision is up for a vote. A voice vote would be to approve the addition of those two dates to our yearly calendar. Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hey.
We needed one. Okay. Any abstentions? The item passes. A revised calendar will be posted to the website. Thank you very much. Okay, item 16, any other business to come before the RTM? Yes, Mr. Toohill.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Just want to thank Representative Leach. She did a big job, with the transition work, from one clerk to the next clerk. So, thank you very much, Representative Leach. It's appreciated.
Through you, Madam Moderator, you are very welcome.
Thank you. Okay, done and done. Great.
Thank you.
Mr. Lafredo, you had your hand up?
Yes. All right, so this was put in front of me. This is I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Still getting used to this.
First
Don't know.
meeting, yep, it's okay.
So right here, this is a foundation. It's called Snuggles for Shoreline Seniors. So what it's about is, I think it's about the donation of blankets. Their goal is 60 blankets for seniors. So to all of you here in the room, and additionally to all of those watching, please reach out. There's 2 locations that you can drop the blankets off at. Oh, 3? I apologize. So there's one, Coastal Wine and Spirits, Eli's on the Hill, and then the Blackstone Memorial Library. The number you can call is 203-208-8942. And they have to be new blankets. Additionally, I think Amy is in the room right back there. So if you have any other questions for everyone here in the room, please reach out to her. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lofredo. What a wonderful thing to announce. Very good. Okay, well, before, Miss Everson, Representative Everson.
I would just like to wish everyone a happy holiday season, Hanukkah, Christmas, New Year's, whatever you celebrate. I hope it's happy, safe, and everyone has a healthy new year as well.
Very good. I was going to say as well, I would hopefully speak for everybody here before I entertain a motion to adjourn, the same thing. I'm sorry?
I've been raising my hand.
Oh, I didn't see you, I'm sorry. New business, are you bringing new business?
I am.
Okay. It should be new business.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. Greg DeRolman again. I'd like to go back to last meeting. It was a short but very robust meeting. A few things happened. One, it looked like, in terms of what was stated at the meeting, the clerk said that she sent out an email to everybody on the RTM. I forget her exact words. The majority leader and the moderator did not receive said email, and it wasn't in their spam folder. So, you know, with my great education from Hampden Hall, Furman, and Sacred Heart, I really reflected on that, and I said, you know, both of those statements can't be true. And I think somebody owes an apology there, because, you know, that is a substantial part of our town budget, and nobody seemed to know what was going on, save for Mr. Toohill. So, you know, that both of those statements can't be true. The second thing that I noticed, and again, this wasn't stated at the meeting, but it was on the, you know, when you looked at the RTM Education Subcommittee summary of events, and you could see where the, you know, where the budget was posted, you can see the original email that was sent from Dr. Tranberg and Mr. Verdun to the town, you know, kind of starting the clock rolling. And I looked at all of the people that it was addressed to, and it was addressed to one person. There was one person among the addressees that was in the RTM, our minority leader, who at the time was chair of the RTM Education Committee. So it kind of begs a question of how is it that it can go to an RTM member, again, if Mr. Verdun and Dr. Tranberg are, if this is a legitimate email and if there's no problems, how come it can go to, you know, someone in a leadership position in the RTM, and yet others are seemingly clueless as to this?
Mr. Gerolman, can you state specifically what your item of new business is?
Yes.
Please.
Well, those are new business items. The third is What are the guidelines and rules in terms of conduct? Because last week for elected officials at public meetings, because last week, or last meeting, I'm sorry, a gentleman, once again, came up, got right in my face, threatened, wanted to fight, stated he would meet me anywhere, anytime, no less than 4 times. When he got in my face, the scent of liquor on his breath was very apparent, and it would explain his comments. So I'd like to understand what the guidelines are, because this is now the second time that inappropriate comments and inappropriate conduct has taken place. And I need to understand what the rules are, because it seems to me that there are higher standards being expected from the public than elected officials. And by the way, the person is Representative Hines.
Mr. Gerolman, these are not items of business. If you have a specific request for guidelines on behavior, I suggest that you write a letter to the moderator addressing this, and we will assign it to a Rules and Ordinances Committee. Airing grievances and making accusations is not allowed in the public meeting unless you have previously addressed this at another level, okay? Making blanket accusations or accusing a member is not an appropriate item of new business.
Okay, well, I hear you, and thank you for the feedback, Madam Moderator. On the other hand, the truth is that I have tried to reach out to the First Selectman. I have had conversation with the majority leader, the minority leader, and I've tried to reach out to you as well, Madam Moderator.
Mm-hmm.
And
Point of information, Madam Moderator, the meeting was on tape, so the whole world could have seen it. I was at the meeting. That didn't take place at a meeting.
No,
And you could go back to the videotape and watch the meeting. It definitely didn't take place at a meeting. What transpires after the meeting has nothing to do with RTM business, because I can promise you, if you see me in my day-to-day life, I do not act like an elected official.
And this is an important point. If you have grievances after a meeting, that is not RTM business. There are also witnesses who may have a different point of view about what happened. So if you would like clarification on the rules of behavior before, during, and after an RTM meeting, please write a letter to me. I will pass it on to Rules and Ordinances, and we will try to get you an answer.
well, thank you very much for the feedback, and I just have to say, in closing, it's very telling that a number of people don't, while I appreciate that feedback, it's interesting and ironic that I would have to come up here and make these statements to get that feedback when I have initiated conversation with several people, including but not limited to the First Selectman, who could have given me that same direction. And I will take that. Thank you
Please.
very much, ladies and gentlemen, and happy holidays.
Thank you. Okay.
There was a motion to adjourn on the floor, no?
Not yet, but there will be.
Okay.
Okay, happy holidays, everybody. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Motion to Any second? Everybody, okay. We are adjourned. Happy holidays. Everybody.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Brantford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BrantfordTV.org.